Before we get started, if you're enjoying this content, you can do us a favor by subscribing to our YouTube channel and ringing the bell. That'll let the algorithm know that you like this content and it will help us produce more.
I think as long as, you really make a huge presence on social media, I think that really can push your brand forward.
Welcome to Honest Ecommerce, a podcast dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and I believe running a direct-to-consumer brand does not have to be complicated or a guessing game. On this podcast, we interview founders and experts who are putting in the work and creating real results. I also share my own insights from running our top Shopify consultancy, Electric Eye. We cut the fluff in favor of facts to help you grow your e-commerce business. Let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest Ecommerce. Today, I couldn't be more thrilled to welcome another Buckeye to the show. It's always a pleasure. Linda Wang is the founder and CEO of two national skincare brands, Karuna Skin and Avatara. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Linda Wang and very excited to be here.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a blast. So just before we kind of go back in time and kind of start about the talk about the start of the brand, just kind of let the audience know what type of products you're like bringing to the market with these brands.
Yeah, so I started the brand specializing in sheet masks. So for those ones out there are skincare lovers, they probably are familiar with the product, but for those aren't, they're essentially are a facial mask. It's a cloth pre-drench in serum. So that's what the brands are known for.
Awesome. All right, so let's go back in time. What was going on? Where did kind of the ideation of this particular product, what was going on in your life and where did it come from?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I started Karuna back in 2009, my prior life, I was a fashion retail buyer. So I used to travel a lot and just my training really equipped me to look for the, market trends currently that is out in the consumer space. And so on my many trips to Asia, my mom actually lives in Taiwan and she introduced me to this new mask application that was trending in Asia. And so if you go to Asia, nobody uses any type of mask but a sheet mask. So that really fascinated me. And then that whole application was inspired from, when you go to the spa and at the end of your treatment, your esthetician would put a nice cooling serum drenched mask. And that's really how I discovered the product.
Absolutely. And then you experienced it, I'm assuming, yourself. And then was it almost immediately serendipitous or was it kind of thinking on it? You noticed there might be a market for this back in the United States?
Yeah, actually, it was correlating back to a childhood experience I had. I had eczema when I was little. And so on many trips to a doctor's appointment, one of the Chinese doctors my parents took me to see, he asked me to put the ointment he made, the magical herbal ointment. And afterwards, like before I go to sleep, make sure I wrap that ointment around with a plastic wrap. So within days, the rash went away. So when I discovered sheet masks and looking at the application, it really jumped in my mind and brought me back to that experience when I connected the dots and I said, oh my God, the plastic wrap is the sheet mask, the actual fiber, the fabric. And it really allows your pores to open up and deeply take into the nutrient ingredients. So that's where the aha moment was happening. But at the same time, because we're selling this in the marketplace and there were no such application trending at that time in the US, I started looking at the market and seeing what type of product currently in the marketplace could tie back to that similar consumer behavior. And that's when I discovered all those wipes that it's in our daily lives today, were trendy at the time. So we're talking about 13, 14 years ago where wipes were just, coming onto the marketplace and it became a necessity, right? That's what we're using today. So I tied that back to sheet mask and I was like, wow, this kind of fits in that trend and decided to take a leap of faith.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that leap of faith. So you've got this idea. How long would you say that you were working on like this idea until you actually kind of like had a product in your hand to test?
I would say probably 1 year. It really started from blueprint, right? Just understanding like how many items do I want to launch and what does that launch plan look like? And so the way I decided to go about it is, I wasn't a professional in beauty or skincare. I was more so, my experience was in apparel and fashion. So I kind of tackled it the same way, looking at this SKU count and just looking at, what are some of the common skin concerns that people are always shopping for. So, and then I kind of map it out like, okay, I'm going to have a mask for, people are needing hydration. I'm going to have a mask with people with acne. So we create a clarifying mask. So all those core skin concerns usually come about. That's how I launched the product. And then started going to visit factories when I would go back to Taiwan and so interviewing, I think I initially interviewed about 3 to 4 factories and then landed on the first partner. And the challenging part initially is, you're a smaller brand, you're just starting out. So a lot of these like minimum order quantities are too large for me. So it's really being creative, how to co-share some of the packing material so you could reduce your MOQ. So that's, pretty much that took some time, but in terms of formulation, just really working with our chemist and working through like, I want my active ingredients to be, more concentrated and I want to remove parabens and I want to make the formula, a little cleaner. So that took some time of going back and forth. So about a year.
Absolutely. So you mentioned SKU count in there, and I kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper there. And I might ask a leading question here, but why is it important to limit the SKU count for an initial launch?
Well, I think there are two things to look at. One is, financial investment, right? So when you're starting off, you don't have a lot of capital. So you do want to limit your SKU count. And similarly to what I mentioned earlier with like sharing co-packaging, where you're just not stuck with high quantity because you don't know if it's going to sell. So it's a risk you're taking. Two, I think it's also because in order to be in a retail space and if, what your end goal is. So if your end goal is going into a specialty retailer and you want to make sure that there is enough merchandising presence, right? If you just create 1 or 2 SKUs, then retailers most likely won't put you on shelf because you'll get lost. So.
Absolutely. All right. So you've got these products now. What's the next step? What's the go-to-market strategy? Are you going straight after retailers with partnerships there? Are you trying to sell direct consumer through like your own website? What was the next step?
So the next step, then it was, sales and distribution. So, back in 2009, there weren't social media yet. So there wasn't Shopify. Our go-to-market strategy was, I started working with a industry, pro that has in the beauty space, and he took me around shopping to these retailers and to gain distribution. So majority of our business back then was brick and mortar. We did create an e-commerce site, and I remember, again, being a founder, you're just like, it's not as easy as today. If you want to create a website, you just go to WordPress or like Shopify. But back then, you really had to figure out how to do it scrappy because I didn't have a lot of funding. So I ended up custom built a site and just like got the domain and back, the back end was with GoDaddy. But I remember waking up one morning. First of all, I was really excited that the site went live. But I remember waking up one morning and a hacker had wiped my website out. So that was definitely the one of the moments of like hardship being an entrepreneur. I literally cried. I was like, how did my website get hacked? But yeah, majority of our business was brick and mortar.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So with that brick and mortar partnerships, kind of launching the business that way, do you have any advice for any entrepreneurs that are looking to kind of scale their business in, I guess, a more traditional way these days?
Well, there's so many ways of market your business today, right? Versus when I first started, and even from going we're 12 years now, going on 13 years of operation. I feel like, digital platform has made the business so much easier to put yourself out there. I think before it was a lot of more word of mouth and reaching out to retailers. So I think as long as, you really make a huge presence on social media, I think that really could push your brand forward.
Absolutely. So you launched your second brand, Avatara, as a separate entity. So I kind of want to dive into that. What was the thought process behind, building up a separate business and brand and, everything that goes along with that, as opposed to kind of just launching something under the main line? I'm sure there was a lot of conversations around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in about 2015-16, we started seeing the marketplace flooded with sheet masks. Even at that time, K-beauty, Korean beauty was trending. So there was like a floodgate of skincare products, even in sheet mask in the US. And because of that, and typically when there is a lot more competition, then the price point is being driven down. So at that time, my thought process was, well, eventually this trend, and going back to my fashion, buying trend, just knowing like trends from the prestige or runway eventually will filter down to the mass, taking that bell curve and understanding. And then that's when I decided in a matter of time, I will have to create a sister brand to target the mass market. So that's exactly what I did. So instead of having someone have that piece of pie, I wanted myself as well. So in 2017, I launched Avatara, and our first partner was Target. And so they're still a great partner to us today.
Absolutely. That's great advice. I guess this is more 300 level commerce, but you'll see this a lot with, especially CPG brands, is the ultimate goal of those businesses is to kind of have a product for each price point. So having something that's cheaper for the mass market, and then having something luxury, and then whatever in between. There's a lot of great examples out there, but it's fun to see a brand such as yours doing kind of the same strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we had to embark the same similar, situation with Karuna. So we were selling, our $8 masks. It was actually in the prestige. That's where we were at, the prestige marketplace, a retail channel. And so, last year actually 2 or 3 years ago, we started thinking about the future of the brand and where do we belong, because now sheet mask is becoming a commodity. And so people tend to pick it up where they go. So, they could go to CVS or Target or Walmart and they can always find sheet masks. So it's not something as so much more of a luxurious goods product. So we started thinking about, okay, what is the future? And so I created a skincare range. So we 2 years ago started working on this. And then, this year in February, we rolled out with Whole Foods exclusively nationwide. So that was really re-looking at the space again, and then, kind of pivoting and thinking like, where do we need to be? And so from time and time again, we have always heard from our Karuna customers how much they love our serum and products, and how does that make their skin feel afterwards. So it's only natural for us to think about how to expand their, the products range, right? Instead of having their use our mask like once or twice a week, now they can use our products daily.
If you're struggling with scaling your sales, maybe Electric Eye can help. Our team has helped our clients generate millions of dollars in additional revenue through our unique brand scaling framework. You can learn more about our agency at electriceye.io. That's electriceye.io. Mesa is the easy-to-use solution to the everyday challenges of running a Shopify store. With Black Friday and Cyber Monday fast approaching, now is an excellent time to use automation to get out of the weeds and focus more on your customers. Automations harness the power of code without any learning curve. You can easily customize how Shopify and your apps work with one-click integrations. From auto-tagging orders to sending package status updates to customers, Mesa connects your data where it's needed most. Simply put, the minutes you spend using Mesa save you hours of manual work. So make this year's Black Friday and Cyber Monday different by simplifying your workload and running your Shopify store better and not letting it run you. Search for Mesa, that's M-E-S-A, in the Shopify App Store and download the app today. Free plan available with no cost setup included. Our partner Rewind can protect your e-commerce store by automatically backing up your business-critical data. Rewind should be the first app you install to protect your store against human error, misbehaving apps, or collaborators gone bad. It's like having your very own magic undo button. Trusted by over 100,000 businesses, from side hustles to the biggest online retailers like Knix, Paul Mitchell, and Pampers. Best of all, visit rewind.com/honest-ecommerce to get your first month absolutely free. That's rewind.com/honest-ecommerce. Getting an online business off the ground isn't easy. So if you find yourself working late, tackling a to-do list that's a mile long with your fifth cup of coffee by your side, remember, great email doesn't have to be complicated. That's what Klaviyo is for. It's the email and SMS platform built to help e-commerce brands earn more money by creating genuine customer relationships. Once you set up your free Klaviyo account, you can start sending beautiful, branded messages in minutes thanks to drag-and-drop design templates and built-in guidance. And with e-commerce specific recommendations and insights, you can keep growing your business as you go. Get started with a free account at klaviyo.com/honest. That's KLAVIYO.com/HONEST. Now, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, is when you were launching Karuna, you know, e-commerce wasn't the thing it is today and the technologies didn't exist like they do today. How has direct to consumer and like selling through your own site changed since the kind of the launch of the brand?
We definitely have grown, especially during COVID. So, you know, when COVID first hit, a lot of non-essential businesses were shut down. So you couldn't go to stores to purchase some of your favorites, or, you know, spas are closed. So there was a lot of self-care happening at home. So our e-commerce, our direct-to-consumer definitely started seeing traction. I have to say that, you know, year after year, we are building on our channel, but the biggest increase was during the last 2 years from when COVID hit. So we saw an increment of like almost 200% in our sales. And a lot of that, you know, what we're still finding our sweet spot in our direct to consumer. We don't spend a lot on digital ads because I think what we need to do is really hone in on our core customers and, you know, having them engage more and making sure that they're being taken care of instead of spending a ton of money on acquiring new customers. The way we acquire new customers is, you know, we definitely work through a lot with affiliate influencers, and that has worked for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very interesting thing with COVID is you watch certain brands that you wouldn't have immediately thought gain a bunch of traction during kind of the pandemic. And it really goes back to this concept of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it was kind of like once everyone had their food and clothing and security, they started to like invest in themselves and self-love. And you saw massive gains in like beauty, first of all, right? But also in like fitness and other categories kind of around that. And it's been a really interesting concept to look at in hindsight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, those wants and needs are always there, but when it becomes like, you know, not accessible to you, then you started filtering down like, well, how can I incorporate that back in my life, right? So it's, for example, like if you can't go to the gym during COVID, then you turn your garage into a home gym, right?
Guilty.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. So like, and then if you can't get, you know, facials or get these like pamper treatments that you normally do, then you're just going to pick up, you know, masks or whatever in stores. So you could do that yourself. So, but the need and the want is still there. You just have to kind of shift it. You shift your way of how to deliver it to yourself. So.
Absolutely. So you've obviously been a successful entrepreneur for over a decade now. Congratulations. But a lot of our listeners out there are just getting started, or, you know, they've got some ideas that they're brewing. What advice would you have for entrepreneurs out there about kind of diving in and starting their own business?
I always say, the journey can be overwhelming. And I remember when I first started conceptualizing Karuna, all the to-dos, like that to-do list was very overwhelming to me, especially like how to, form an LLC and how to register with your city, a business license, all that. The list is endless. And I always, what I did is I gave myself 10 items on a list and then continue to check things off before you add more. That way you could stay focused and not feel so overwhelmed, but always just trust yourself that, you know what, I can tackle anything. I will get through it, but just kind of look at it and shorten your list so you don't get overwhelmed and run the other way. And then it just doesn't happen. So that's my advice.
Yeah, it's with entrepreneurship, especially being the founder or CEO, your list is never ending, but you got to be really vicious about prioritization. And just kind of understanding that, as you grow and as you replace yourself time and time again with new hires and delegation, your list doesn't get any smaller, just the stuff on it changes.
Yeah. And you're always learning. I mean, this journey is really about learning. Just be hungry and learn. You're never going to be, we're never experts at anything, right? We're riskier. We're risk takers. And so you just have to keep an open mind and continue to learn. And that's how you grow.
Absolutely. Linda, is there anything I didn't ask you about today that you think would resonate with our audience?
No, I just honestly feel like running a business today, and you could already see a trend that there are so many more smaller businesses out there. It's because technology makes it so accessible and makes it so much easier. So I just think if anybody is inspired to create your own business, do it. Don't worry about failure because you learn from that, and you just have to, take a gamble.
Absolutely. Those are very, very wise words. All right. You've talked about these awesome products. Let's shout them out. Where do people go if they're interested in learning more about the products?
Yeah. So we, DTC channel. So karunaskin.com. Otherwise, all of our, so we have a skincare range. They're at Whole Food stores nationwide. If you want our Karuna's original sheet mask, you can go to Anthropologie. And then Avatara line is being sold at Target, and we will soon, probably in a week or two, be in Walmart stores. So
it'll be in Walmart stores by the time this comes out.
Exactly. Okay, there we go.
Awesome. Linda, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of that with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right. I can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing their knowledge and journey with us. We've got a lot to think about and potentially add into our own business. You can find all the links in the show notes. Make sure you head over to honestecommerce.co to check out all of the other amazing content that we have. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and obviously, if you're thinking about growing your business, check out our agency at electriceye.io. Until next time.